shine.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. Like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike,
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your moves.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming and I'm loud. Roar.
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on Geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even upset about anything.
All right, we're back. Welcome back to The Balance. My name is Tom Marquis, El Presidente. 917-889-8516 is our digits. 1 hour in the can, thanks to Tyson, Lautenschlager on pitroad.com. Joining us from Toronto, IndyCar in Toronto, breaking down the Toronto race in the streets of Toronto. And joining us also is Tony Donouhue of the Tony D podcast, talking some NASCAR NBA. Tony, welcome back. Didn't get your thoughts on the IndyCar race there in Toronto. Any thoughts or chimes in that you'd like to give us on the IndyCar race in Toronto?
I was talking about this earlier in my podcast. Everybody's talking about how great this championship race is, and it is. You've got two Americans at the front with Joseph Newgarden and Alexander Rossi, but the rookie battle this year has been so intense. I thought last year was the best IndyCar field we have seen with Robert Wickens as a rookie, but you look at this year, Colton Herta has a win, has a pole, and he's fourth. He's dead last of the four rookie drivers in points. You've got Felix Rosenqvist, who was top 5 in the practice session yesterday, leading the points. Santino Ferrucci's right there, Marcus Ericsson, and then Colton Herta. So you got two different races heading into the streets of Toronto this week. You've got the championship race, which is really heating up. But that rookie race is something to keep your eye on, too, because the four rookies, and although they're rookie in name, and Colton Herta is 19 years old, but Marcus Ericsson, Felix Rosenqvist have a lot of experience in Formula One cars. And Santino Ferrucci has been a guy that, we weren't sure if he was going to be full-time in that 19 car. They put him in full-time. He's ran well. He ran well at the Indianapolis 500 with a top 10 finish and scoring Rookie of the Year honors. The rookie battle is just as intense and just as exciting as what we see in the championship battle up front.
Well, absolutely, and we'll be curious to see who gets that Rookie of the Year. I know I've talked about it with some other people on the show here. It's a battle, that's for sure. Let's talk a little bit. I was just talking to Tyson, who's up in Toronto, and he's like, for the longest time, James Hinchcliffe was the favorite hometown driver here. But here recently, over the last couple of months, it's been Robert Wickens. He's not been in a race car, and I guess it was just he did a press conference yesterday there, but he was able to get in a car, especially fitted car, just for Robert. If you remember, it's the same kind of car that Sam Schmidt's been able to get out on the track with, and it's put together by Arrow. What are your thoughts about that? How cool is that? It's, obviously James Hinchcliffe knows what it's like for his teammate to go through. He went through something very similar, and both escaped death, and Hinchcliffe was back on the track, and I wish the best for Robert Wickens, but it was certainly a good positive sign to see him out there on the track in Toronto yesterday.
Yeah, really cool for Robert Wickens to get out, like you said, in his home country. And you obviously never want to see anybody get injured. You never want to see anybody have to go through rehab. But I thought, okay, if this is going to happen and, he was going to be injured, it's a good thing and a blessing in disguise that he's with Arrow Schmidt Peterson Motorsports, because Sam Schmidt, a paraplegic, has been through this type of thing. And you look at what the rehab that he's done and being able to drive that car and the electronics that Arrow has done. It was cool to see yesterday. Robert Wickens continues to be an inspiration for a lot of people, including myself. and hopefully one day we see him back. We see him back in the cockpit of a competitive race car.
And that would be awesome, and it would be awesome to see him back at the Indianapolis 500, and so we certainly wish him the best in recovery. Toronto in the news again, big news, part of the chess match that has been known as the NBA free agency that has just kind of just been, you want to say craziness? I don't know. If you could put one word defining the 2019 NBA free agency, Tony, what would it be?
Wild. Crazy. Nobody expected to see a lot of what we've seen. Nobody thought that these moves are going to happen. And I thought the last domino to fall the last time we talked was, all right, once Kawhi gets to where Kawhi needs to go, then we'll know. And then once Kawhi got to where he needed to go, I thought, okay, everything's fine. It's balanced. And then all of a sudden these rumors started happening with, Russell Westbrook's not happy in Oklahoma City. Obviously, Paul George wasn't. Obviously, those two had talked to say, okay, well, neither of us are happy here. Can we move? And then we see Paul George get traded and move to the Clippers to play with Kawhi Leonard. And now we've seen that Russell Westbrook has gone to the Rockets. So I don't ever remember seeing this much movement in NBA free agency. It's been wild. It's been crazy. And it's been fun.
Well, it certainly has been, and it's exploded since the beginning of June 30th. Last week, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant teamed up in Brooklyn. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, as you mentioned, teamed up with the Lakers. Jimmy Butler left Philadelphia for Miami, and the Knicks and the Lakers all struck out. And let's talk a little bit about the Knicks. You would think the Knicks could do something, but it was their crosstown rival, if you will, Brooklyn, that seemed to land the gold mine in the 2019 free agency. What's going on with the Knicks? Nobody wants to be a Knick. I remember a time, you probably do too, back during the Reggie Miller years, of course, but every player wanted to be a New York Knick. What has happened with the Knicks? What has made them such a non-destination place to go, and what has made it work for Brooklyn as opposed to not for the Knicks?
I think ownership has really been the reason why the Knicks haven't been a free agent destination, and they haven't developed talent. The thing with the Nets is you remember that trade with the Celtics that, they moved, they got Kevin Garnett, whatever, everybody was moving around. But they built for the future, and they've done a good job of developing talent. Like Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, even though he's not there anymore, was a decent player that kind of developed. When D'Angelo Russell got there, he was kind of rough and raw around the edges, and they developed him. They played fun basketball. The Barclays Center is a great place to play basketball, and the Nets have always been moving forward, where it seems like the Knicks have always been trying to go after those big name free agents, but haven't been able to land them. And then you hear the report that the Knicks were not interested in Kevin Durant because of his injuries. Well, the Nets are thinking, well, great, okay, well, we can give you the New York lifestyle, and we'll wait out your injury, and we'll get Kyrie Irving. So I think the Knicks management almost shoots themselves in the foot when it comes to free agency.
Well, let's kind of go through some of these top billers, if you will. Look at it from maybe the business aspect or the team aspect of it. Obviously, the biggest one is Kawhi Leonard leaving the Raptors. He was the Raptors for 4 years, $142 million. Leonard won a championship in Toronto and then got out of town. Leonard joined the Clippers, enticing the team to trade for Paul George in the process, and it's a very stunning move. Remember Paul George very well here in Indianapolis, and he was not liked very much when he went to Oklahoma. Wanted to make it very clear he didn't want to be the Pacers. Also made it very clear that because of his brand, he wanted to be in L.A. It seemed, though, he had found a spot, a niche, if you will, at Oklahoma City and was really kind of playing MVP style basketball in Oklahoma City. So it tells me that the Clippers had an enticing enough offer to Oklahoma City to trade for them, and Paul George does it again, ups and moves, and Oklahoma City fans are left scratching their heads like, why doesn't anybody want to play here with us?
The thing with Paul George is he wanted the trade. And look, the guy wanted to go back to L.A. where he's from. So I get that. I understand that. And I respect that. But once again, Paul George stepping up to the plate and demanding a trade, because that's what Paul George does. If he's not happy, if he thinks that he is good enough to be the guy, and he finally had an MVP caliber season. But Paul George will always be a Robin, and I've said this since he left the Pacers. Paul George, for the rest of his career, will be the second best player on his team. There will always be somebody else. First, it was Russell Westbrook who was better than him. Now it'll be Kawhi Leonard. So Paul George demands a trade, just like he did here in Indiana, just like he did for the Pacers, demands a trade, goes to L.A. He wanted to be home. I totally get that. But no matter what, Paul George will always be the second-best player on his roster at all times, because that's how Paul George has decided to be in the league. And is it right? I don't think so. Is it wrong? It's also not wrong. But I think Paul George is very weak-minded. I think Paul George is a guy that I wouldn't want on my basketball team. And we'll see what he does in L.A. under Kawhi Leonard. But I don't think that the Clippers are better than what the Toronto Raptors were last year. And the West is better than what it was last year. So it's going to be tough for both L.A. teams to make it to the NBA Finals this year.
Well, we look at Kawhi Irving leaving the Celtics, and we look at Edwards, and we look at Romeo, both from Indiana colleges, joining the Boston Celtics. Does this give them a unique opportunity to shine? Was Kyrie Irving kind of a cancer in Boston? Obviously, he signed a 4-year, $142 million deal with the Nets, and as you just mentioned, brought Kevin Durant around, and they're okay with him sticking out an entire season. So, it's going to be Irving's team there in Brooklyn, but I think it gives some unique opportunities to the rookies there in Boston, both from Indiana colleges.
Yeah, we'll see. You've got a lot of young talent there. You got Jason Tatum, you got Kemba Walker you got to play behind. But I think that signing Carson Edwards was big for the Purdue kid, and thinking, okay, I can play in the NBA. The Celtics want me here. I can learn, hopefully, behind Kemba Walker, behind one of the best basketball minds in Brad Stevens, and be a legit basketball player. Carson Edwards has played really well in the summer league. Looking forward to see what he does in the NBA. I think Boston, however, certainly took 3 to 4 steps back with losing Kawhi Leonard, losing Kyrie Irving, who didn't seem to want to be there, and by losing Al Horford. Al Horford, I thought, was the glue that kind of kept them together, that a guy that can get you a rebound or go get you a bucket whenever you need it. So I think that they're losing a lot more in Al Horford than just a basketball player, and we'll see what the Celtics can do this year. But honestly, I don't expect them to be a top 3 or 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. We'll see what they can do. We'll see how they can adjust with all the movement that's going on in free agency.
Well, we also saw another big move during the free agency, and that's Jimmy Butler going over to the Miami Heat. 2018 and 19, he played for the Timberwolves and the 76ers. 4 years, $142 million. Butler was part of a 4-team sign and trade going on from the 76ers to the Heat. In Miami, he'll have a chance to be a clear-cut best player and lead the Heat back to the playoffs. You buying that?
Man, you thought that maybe more free agents would follow him to Miami. Obviously, it's more of a destination city than it is a basketball city. And then there was rumors that Russell Westbrook was going to end up there, and then he didn't. He obviously ends up in Houston. I like Jimmy Butler, but I don't think Jimmy Butler is that player that gets you over the hump without anybody else. I mean, Hassan Whiteside's gone. Dragic is So I don't expect the Heat to be contenders this year, and I think Jimmy Butler's probably sitting down there thinking, well, I thought if I moved to Miami, we would get a few more free agents and people would want to come down and play here because it's such a great city to obviously live in, and that didn't happen. So my expectations are very, very low for the Miami Heat this year.
We'll see what happens. We were just talking about Boston and the young players and a lot of things. One of the guys that can come in and be a plug-and-play guard that can really help get this team up and going after Irving leaves, and that's Kemba Walker to the Boston Celtics. He signed with them. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the thing with Kemba is he's a good player, but can he win? And in Charlotte, he proved that he can't win. So you hope that Brad Stevens can help him take that next step. And, I don't know with Kemba because he's a great basketball player.